you can hear me all right, Jess? Okay, I'm just going to double check before we get rocking and rolling here that I can see us live on the page. And I can see myself looking down at my phone. So golden. All right. Welcome, everybody. Hopefully there'll be some folks hopping on live with us tonight, but if you are watching this in the replay and you've got questions that come up along the way, please feel free to pop them in the comments below the video. I will do my best to grab any questions that come in as we go as well. And if there's anything posted after we're finished tonight, Jess and I can both pop back and check in on those as well. So I want to introduce you this evening to Jess Wood from Sprout Doula Services based in the Moncton area. Jess is a birth doula and in the midst of doing her certification as a postpartum doula as well, so that she can extend the support that she provides families further into that postpartum period. So welcome, Jess.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You bet, you bet. So for families who are tuning in either live or with the replay, who aren't familiar with what doulas are, can you give us a little bit of a rundown on who doulas are and what they do?
So a doula is essentially a labor support person, so additional support for, first and foremost, a laboring person, of course, but the more births I do, the more I realize how the support extends to the whole family, especially the partner, if there is a partner. Mm-hmm. I get so many huge thanks and big hugs from the partners, from mm-hmm. dads. Just so thankful to have additional support. And the support starts from day one. So in the prenatal period, doulas can provide educational support in the form of research. I usually do like a mental walkthrough of what happens in the hospital mm-hmm. protocol, all of that. Just you wouldn't really realize a lot until you were in the situation. So I like to mentally prep people a lot, answer any questions, ease any minds, help a couple kind of go over a lot of things that they might not think until we get into these conversations as a group. So, so that's essentially the prenatal period. Okay. During the birth, it's total hands-on support. So whatever the couple needs, that can be hip squeezes, that can be using the rebozo is one of my personal favorite things to use.
What's a rebozo?
A rebozo, it's essentially a giant scarf. It's from Mexico. They use it in labor and delivery quite often. Okay. And you can use it in so many ways. You can use it to hide underneath. Some women really like to just take a break and go underneath.
Cocoon.
Yes. Yeah. I call it go camping. So I've had a few ladies just go underneath there for a little bit. Yeah. And you can do belly support. You can do hip squeezes. You can do double hip squeezes with the fabric. It's amazing. So there's lots of different things you can do with that. As a doula, it can be tiring for the hands and the arms to be physically supporting someone. So things like the rebozo or tennis balls, massage balls, I use those quite often during labor. And just kind of rotating through those things. Also facilitating mental support, obviously. And my cat's going to jump up here. Trying to get her to not. Advocacy. So I'm definitely not a voice in the labor room, but helping remind a couple of what we spoke about beforehand, a birth plan, certain important details. I can help kind of advocate for them in that way. So
yeah, kind of helping them think of the questions that maybe that they need to ask to get the information that they are looking for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And just little tiny subtle reminders, little whispers of strength, especially concerning certain aspects of a labor, certain points in a labor where people or couples are more nervous about.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing to support a couple through that birth experience. And then the postpartum aspect,
Mm-hmm.
I am there as well for a short period after the birth. I provide a little bit of breastfeeding support, but mostly just emotional, hands-on support. So debriefing of the birth, especially if there was any trauma, we try and work through that
Mm-hmm.
quite quickly. Obviously, if they're ready for it,
Yeah.
but just kind of going to visit and just being an ear during
Mm-hmm.
that time that is usually quite hectic. So
Yeah.
yeah, essentially
Awesome.
that's in a nutshell.
Yeah. Yeah. And now this isn't something that I had a question that I had sent you before, but it's one that's popped into my mind.
Yeah.
And that is what brought you to this work?
Oh, having a baby, essentially. Yeah.
Yes.
So, my first birth was less than ideal.
Okay.
I wanted a natural birth, no medication. I wanted to labor as long as possible at home. Yeah, here she goes.
There she is.
Snuck up on. And I had a 10-pound baby girl, unbeknownst to myself. So it was a 3-day labor. Nothing went the way I wanted it to go. And anyways, to each his own, and the journey is all different. But I was
Yeah.
left with quite a quite a bit of trauma. It took me a long time to process. I ended up
Okay.
in a C-section,
Mhm.
so I really wasn't prepared for any of it mentally.
Yeah.
And the more I processed it, the more I just wanted to support others through whatever type of journey ended up being theirs. Yes, and just being in the hospital environment, having a baby, and realizing that you can't have enough support. You can't have enough unbiased, strong support for you and your partner in that space, and having someone protect that space for you and your partner
Mhm.
is can be huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For
Wonderful.
I just realized that there wasn't a lot of doulas I knew in the city, anyways. But it was
Hmm.
something that I was really pulled towards for sure.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. It's amazing how our own life journeys can bring us to some of the things that we're meant to do and share with people in the world.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to shift gears a little bit and chat about comfort measures
Yeah.
in labor and birth, because as Jess mentioned, that's a lot of the tools in her toolbox are around helping birthing people and couples feel supported through that labor and birth process. And comfort measures is part of that. The term comfort measures does lend itself to some explanation of perhaps why we might use some of these tools and techniques. But just before we get there, I wanted to chat very briefly about pain versus suffering. And so pain is more focused on the physical sensations that tell us that something's happening within our bodies. And suffering is the interpretation, often negative interpretation or story that we tell ourselves in our minds about those types of experiences. And so when it comes to pain in certain situations, especially in labor and birth, pain is often inevitable. It's part of the experience,
Mhm.
but suffering is optional. There is opportunity for us to sort of interrupt that connection between pain and suffering. And that's often where some of those comfort measures can come into play. And so just as a little pictorial representation, I don't know if you'll be able to see this very well. I can always post it down afterwards as well. So starting up with the pain, if the pain itself is triggering some negative thoughts for a birthing mother, those negative thoughts can trigger certain emotions. Oftentimes, I would say in labor and birth, the most common encountered might be anxiety or fear, sometimes hopelessness, especially at certain points in the birth process. And those are the emotions that can contribute to that experience of suffering. And suffering is going to increase tension and stress in our bodies, which is going to contribute to more pain. And when it comes to labor and birth, that tension and stress is also going to slow down those natural labor hormones, like oxytocin and its use. And so that's going to slow down the labor process as well. And so where comfort measures come in handy is, well, I'm going to figure out where I'm pointing here, is working on that connection here. So helping birthing women move through the sensations in their bodies so that they're not getting stuck in this cycle of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when it comes to comfort measures, I'm sure that there are lots that you have. And we spoke briefly before we got rolling tonight, and Jess said, asking about comfort measures, she said it kind of asked her to kind of call on her muscle memory, because a lot of it is automated and individualized depending on the birthing families that she works with. But tell us about maybe 2 or 3, whatever feels good, of some of the techniques or comfort measures that you recommend most often, and maybe hopefully some of those or both of those might be ones that families can start practicing prenatally. I often say to women, the more things that we practice prenatally for keeping ourselves comfortable and calm and grounded, the more easy they are to access through labor and birth, and even postpartum when we're healing afterwards as well. So we can, if there are things that we can practice before we get in there, exactly. all the better.
Like he's going back to muscle memory. The more you figure out, I often talk with my families, what gives you comfort or brings you joy on an everyday basis. So music that really resides with you, smells, texture, anything that just kind of brings you inside for a minute. I talk to people a lot, so just kind of be mindful about those things for a little while. And also things like hydrotherapy, really being mindful when you are taking time for yourself and taking a bath or so on, and kind of relaxing your muscles one muscle at a time, and kind of doing that sort of thing. Breathing. I practice breathing with couples specifically, because the big thing that can happen is women can start, like you within that cycle, panic is usually something that hits along the line at some point. And the partner is that big compass, like that trust beacon. So we practice breathing quite often, because I usually get the partner to jump in at that point and kind of help the birthing person connect back into their breath, into what they're doing, and not start that hyperventilating and that panic mode. Do breathing with the client as well during birth, but it's usually the partner that can get them to really focus back into themselves. That's a big one that couples can start to do early on at home. It's just being mindful, connecting to one another, that oxytocin release and that love hormone. When you can get close during labor and birth, it's so important to keep things, or to help things move smoothly.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when couples, and so whether it is a birthing parent and their partner, or whether it's a birthing parent and another support person, it's something, most of the time those support people are folks who are close to us and know us on a deeper level. And so whoever is going to be there in the room as your primary support person, that's the person that you want to be practicing that breathing with prenatally. And any guidance that you have, Jess, around definitely, as you say, kind of tuning in with one another and connecting with one another. And then is the recommendation to slow the breathing to a certain pace, or to have a certain pattern of breathing, sort of once they've connected?
Yeah, just slowing the breath, obviously,
Okay.
but having an audible sound. So I usually recommend something like like a yoga breath almost.
Yeah.
So it gets the diaphragm. You kind of get a little rumbling. So there's a couple different things you can connect with there, but it's
Yeah.
audible for the most part. So it kind of can break that inside chatter a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Your partner right there, kind of having that outward breath, and you
Mm-hmm.
can match it.
Match it.
Is matching it, breathing together for 30 seconds or whatever through a
Mm-hmm.
contraction or between a contraction.
Yeah.
And another one also is practicing your relaxation. So between contractions, being
Mm-hmm.
able to fully relax. I often
Mm-hmm.
remind my clients during labor, you had a contraction, rest. Like,
Rest.
lay your head down, put your
Yeah.
earbuds in, whatever you need to do. Doesn't matter what else is going on.
Cocoon up in that rebozo.
Yeah, dig your head into the pillow, whatever you need to do. We're
Yes.
here, not going anywhere. You're
Yeah.
safe. Take your break.
Yes.
I find a lot of people forget to do that, or you watch those
Mm-hmm.
movies and they're going through each contraction fast and furious, and
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
break. So maybe chant.
Absolutely. Having that really mindful rest between contractions, even if it's a short rest, as you're getting a little bit closer to that baby being birthed and the contractions are closer together, short rests add up. They really, really do. Yeah. And that makes me think of, when it comes to mindfully resting and relaxing our bodies, and having something like that to practice prenatally, either a guided or one that you're doing yourself, progressive relaxation of the body. So whether you're sitting up or laying down in a comfortable position, basically all progressive relaxation is starting at your toes and working your way up, consciously contracting those muscles and then consciously relaxing them, so that you can feel in your body the difference between tension and relaxation. And then you get to know those sensations going from your feet and gradually up your legs through your torso, all the way up to your shoulders and neck and head. You get to know what the sensation of relaxation or rest feels like in those muscles. And then back to that muscle memory again, when you're between those contractions and birth, you can call on that muscle memory to just really relax those muscles, because it's something that you've practiced before.
Definitely. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And I love when you mentioned the breathing practices with couples, that it's not just the sound necessarily of a partner's voice coaching you through, but also the sound of their breath. So having that audible breath, it kind of calls in a variety of the senses, when it comes to hearing the voice, but also hearing the breath, and possibly, even having your hands on one another's chest and feeling that breath move a little bit, so that you're calling on all of those different senses and sensations to bring you from that place of vibrating to that present moment again.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great visualization of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful. And you had mentioned hydrotherapy as well. So for those who aren't familiar, hydrotherapy is the use of water for contributing to relaxation and oftentimes pain relief as well. So, soaking in a warm tub prenatally and triggering that relaxation can be helpful. But also if if a laboring parent has access to a tub during their labor, whether it's before you go to the hospital or sometimes depending on the laboring room. Do they have, in our local hospitals, I haven't been into the laboring rooms, do they have tubs in some or all of them?
None.
No, none. Darn.
Hopefully we're getting there at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Newmont has a laboring tub. You can't deliver in it,
Okay.
but and the Moncton City Hospital has an amazing, huge shower. You
Okay.
shut the door. It's pitch black. I often bring battery-powered candles,
Mm-hmm.
so it has like a beautiful ambiance, and all of the noise is ignored from the outside. You don't even know you're in the hospital anymore. So that's a really great laboring space.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my clients call me in the midst of it all happening, and I tell them to hop in the bath. So usually when I get there, they're still in the bath, so we can do a little bit more of targeted hydrotherapy. So
Okay.
we take a bucket or like a large vessel of some kind and do a, focus on their back for the most
Mm-hmm.
part, and
Mm-hmm.
just pour it on their back at various intensities and
Yep.
heats, and that helps quite a few folks get through the first jump of adjusting to what contractions are feeling like, and as they're
Yep.
steadily increasing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's lovely. And
Yeah.
again, I feel like that's calling on, well, a couple of different sensations because you've got the heat, but also you said at the varying rates. So there's
Exactly.
those different kinds of sensations when it comes to distracting the mind from the sensations of pain or contraction that are moving through the body to sensations that are more pleasant.
Right. And with
Yeah.
that said, hydrotherapy doesn't work for everyone. That
Yeah.
was one thing I had hard and fast with my first. I'll get in the tub and it'll be great. And I
Yes.
hated it. I felt so trapped. So if
Yes.
it doesn't work for you, heating pad is always a really great option. Heating pad and hip squeezes. So me or the partner, hip squeezes are just the best thing ever.
Yeah.
So you can do those with a heating pad or like a nice rice bag with
Yeah.
eucalyptus on there, whatever. So
Yeah.
there's options you can move through.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely. And temperature wise, if heat doesn't feel like it's working, a cold pack or even a cold cloth that's wrung out and just,
yeah.
gently placed on there. So yeah,
Right. Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Wonderful. I'm just going to hop over on my phone here just to see if there are any questions that have popped up from folks who are with us. Let's see. I don't see any questions there right now.
Alrighty.
Um, But for anyone who is watching, if something comes up a little bit later, or if you're watching the replay and you've got questions that come up about things that we've chatted about tonight with Jess, whether it's about the comfort measures or about her practice, please pop them in the comments below. I will also pop a link there to Jess's Facebook page as well so that you can follow her here on social media. And you can even, if you have direct questions for her, you can connect with her directly as well. Alrighty. Thank you so much
Thanks so much.
for joining me this evening. Take good care, everybody, and have a most wonderful evening.
Bye. Thank you.